All right. Welcome, everybody, to the meeting here for the Open Source Committee. Of course, today's date here, June the 21st. Let me go ahead and get started by sharing what we have as our agenda. It is pretty busy. One of the things that we're going to look to, I guess, transition to, since we do want to do introductions at the beginning of every meeting, we're just going to go ahead and put those in the chat transcript. And then if it ever comes up for question or needs to be publicly shared, I can make sure to just add that in with our regular transcript and meeting minutes. But if you are not familiar with this, I encourage you to get familiar with it, right? We've had this up for a while, and I want to make sure it's showing the right thing here. There we go. Basically renamed one of these tabs to agenda, and so what we'll do is we'll have a current constant running log here in ClickUp of the agenda. This is actually kind of similar to how Intersect does it for our Monday team meetings. A little bit different in that particular space, but this here, it looks like this will help us keep it a little bit more organized. And if I ever need to add specific notes to anything here that you'd rather have included in our meeting minutes, then I can do that as well. That being said, looks like it's still not sharing properly, or is it updating for y'all?
I think it's still on the same screen. And can you share the link when you get a chance, just so they can see it from their end at least?
I think it was sharing the wrong tab. That's my issue. Here we go. But yeah, let me share that link as well, actually.
Yep, just to clarify, this is that ClickUp space, kind of like a Jira fill-in that Intersect adopted for the committee space. Me and Tex are going to start operating out of this and being more diligent about keeping it up to pace. I think we've mostly, with all the things that have been going on, I think we're now getting to a manageable work-life balance. So we'll be diligent on this for the committee.
All right. So getting right to business here. First up is policy working group updates. What do you got for us, Adam?
Yeah, so biggest thing on the policy is apparently Discord sucks and hasn't been giving people proper notifications because Solona just got a tag that I had given her weeks ago, like a few days ago. So I still have not been able to corral all of my policy working group fellows to get a doodle or something going on to schedule up a time for proper meetings. But an important thing that I'm going to be probably putting into the Discord chat for some async discussion is we need to get the ball rolling on figuring out our election process for this group. Even if Intersect itself is not quite at a stage that's ready. So Christian and I had some early first discussion about that, about how we could potentially go about achieving a simple vote via the Intersect membership on time for everybody's August expiration of the initial commitments to be a part of a sitting member of this committee. And then we're going to probably, along with that, look for some new members because we currently have 3 open seats with the people that have left to move on, and then see if there's anybody that is willing to sit on for 6 months or 12 more months so that we can get into a partial committee rotation so that we never have to deal with whole cloth replacing the entire body of the committee at any given point. So that's going to be our probably our next big deliverable focus from the policy working group, is kind of picking something in terms of election policy and at least giving it a shot. So we might be playing a little bit of spaghetti and throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. But yeah, we got to start somewhere. So we're gonna pick up a shovel and get going.
So I can follow up on that with you, Adam, here. Would love to get a meeting, I think probably with you, Christian, Lloyd, and possibly Matthew Capps. Let me ask, though, do you have flexibility as far as like the MCC meeting? I think it's weekly on Tuesdays. It's 10 Central. So I think that's 8 for you.
Yeah.
Okay, I would definitely suggest hopping into the next MCC meeting, and if need be, reach out to Matthew Capps, IOG, see what you can do to get on that agenda, to ask them, because what I know from the back end is that Lloyd had something that they used for the community advisory board. I actually just had a look over it this morning. I found myself to be lost. There was another document that was shared from that same direction, and that was brought to MCC. But I've had some questions as far as their deliverables and the overall creation related to what's going on with Intersect. So definitely encourage you to go that way, and we'll kind of try to work that two-handed, if you will, so we can get this to a better place. And do know that what we would create policy-wise, that would follow back, or I would collect that and basically get that to be in place for every committee here at Intersect. So we'd send a lead from the front, and I would hope to continue to do it that way. That's for voting anyway. Okay. Up next, Christian, do you want to talk any more about security policy and basically what that's looking like here from a review perspective?
Yep. So we had the pleasure, me and Tex, to be with Nigel and Lawrence in Colorado this week up until Wednesday. And we did clarify that we don't need the governing board to review it at this point in time. They have more urgent matters, so we've been given the go-ahead to go ahead and set up the OSC and just make sure that we're in touch with the TSC as we go through it. So that'll be coming up. And we did just do the repo permission changes. So projects can now have private repositories to store security issues and stuff like that, which I think the Plutus working group is wanting to do. So we at least got to.
It's you that broke my access to. It's you that broke my access to Colorado Ledger, though.
Yeah, I can add it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone has that's another caveat. If anyone has access issues to any repos, please let me or Tex know, and we'll get you sorted. It just, if you were a member at any level, you had write access to everything, and we needed to make sure that private repos could stay private. So that's all. We changed the base permission level, and now I'll be wrangling up the team structure so it makes sense. But if you Venmo me $20, Nick, I'll get you that access.
I'll take a step back before we move to the next topic there. Adam, if you need help getting anything set up as far as like meeting wise, or once you do get that cadence, definitely let me know, because we do have an open source committee calendar specific in the Google Calendar. So I can make sure that that meeting is emulated there. I don't know if this is something that's going to be opened up or that you want opened up on the Discord channels, but just let me know about that as well. I think that goes just based on the working group. I don't remember if there's a mandate on that yet, but I will double check. All right. Next then is over to Alex for project incubation.
All right. How's my sound? Can you hear me?
Sounds good.
All right. So we had a couple of meetings. We discussed, so this current incubation group merges the outputs from the previous group, which is Project Lifecycle, which was developed by me, Silona, and Bogdan together with inputs from Daniel, and the Project Evaluation, which was developed by Terence, Christian, and with inputs from Michael and other folks. The idea is that we have to be able to validate projects as to where they are in their path or life cycle, right? And what we can recommend to the projects, like what actions they can take and what criteria they have to satisfy. So current work is on studying and choosing metric models from KS community. We've looked at Bitergia, and I looked at Grimoire Lab and other software which provides the metrics. So but the difficult thing is to interpret them. And in the last meeting, we were discussing how this process will take place. So far, my understanding is that we cannot really. Oh yeah, so we cannot really fully automate this. Because, you cannot decide how things should be from how they are. So somewhere in the middle, there have to be some people that review and make decisions and say, for example, all right, this metric doesn't shine on this project, but this project doesn't really need this metric because this is the type of project, such type of project. And so in my like philosophical view, that like you will never be able to automate this. This is just like how things are. So at present, like our current last meeting, Christian said that we'd like to review the incubation draft or project evaluation draft, which is now in the chat. And I don't know, Christian, do you want to have like a vote on it, or just if there are objections and for the people to review it?
Yeah. So just briefly, I'm going to share my screen real fast, Tex. So all this does is build off that incubation draft that we had prior. It's going to serve as a complement to the framework, and it only touches the first 3 categories for the incubation process, and it's to establish a checklist category areas. So that way it allows you to determine the appropriate level for where projects should be at to be in those categories. And then as Alex was talking about, we are going to add in metrics to this and deliberate that once this has been approved by the committee. And then we'll come back with the metrics that we wish to adopt. And we do have a slide deck on that. But basically, high level incubation, this one's going to be your least stringent category. This is just making sure that there's basic things in place before the project would come to Intersect, if it goes through that process or is built within Intersect as an initiative. But like simple things that I'm trying to make sure are mandatory is like having a contributing MD license, identify who the core maintainers are, code of conduct, and then making sure there's a description and a README, and then some recommendations to include. But this is to get the baseline so that you can start open source adoption and start incubating your project. The next step, the growth area, this is where we would start looking at usage and contributor dynamics. And the idea behind this is the stage gate to differentiate between when a project in the incubation stage can now be in the growth phase. And to be in the growth phase, you should have something towards these areas, a more active use case for the project. It's a lot healthier. It actually has some security measures, public reference implementation. It's more open and transparent, may even be aligned with the public working group, and has some user adoption and recognition. I think a good use case for this one's kind of like LSM Tree. It's not fully mature, but it has a few people on it, and it's growing with that project, at least to my current knowledge of it. And then you do have the mature phase, where you have technical optimization, stability, ecosystem integration. I would think Cardano Node is kind of the example for this, things that they have. But these are just the generic categories that I'm proposing that we assess those first 3 criteria from. And then from this is the strategic pillars to actually build out acceptance criteria. And through that criteria, the next step would then, we know what the last 2 phases are of the framework and the acceptance criteria there. So I'm putting that up for the community vote. Yeah. Any questions? It's very generic. Okay. I guess we can do a round of vote then, if no objections. Or does anyone want more time to review it?
Christian, for my
Okay,
part, just clarify what we're getting consent for here.
we're getting consent that we can add this as the incubation. So you have the framework doc. It gives you 5 categories of how projects are classified. This document adds criteria for the first 3 phases, which is incubation, growth, and mature. And then once this is approved, if it is, we can then take this to define the other 2 categories and metrics associated with the incubation. But this actually gives you the definition to what those phases are. So that's what the vote's for.
So in a way, we're
And it-
basically voting on the vocabulary and the qualifications of that vocabulary.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else before we continue there for incubation?
I think we got a majority vote.
And so now we'll move on to the maintainer pilot, which is actually closing today. Adam, tell us some more.
Yeah, we've made some progress, which is progress in itself. Because when we first started the pilot, I wasn't sure how much progress we were going to actually be able to make. I think we're pushing ahead, trying to see if we can get a new release actually out the door prior to the hard fork. But and we're not quite there yet. But essentially, we've managed to get the repo kind of restructured to where it's got a more clean management and approval structure. We've started opening up communications and collaboration and kind of repository governance discussions because this is managed in conjunction between Cardano Foundation, Intersect, and I believe it's IOI staff that sometimes still contributes, if I'm not mistaken, Christian. So we've got 3 different entities that we're all trying to coordinate and collaborate together on. So it's definitely presented some unique challenges, but I feel like we've made good progress, and so we should be, I believe, wrapping that up and putting a bow on it, at least for this pilot project, so we can roll it out to the wider group of projects and repositories that we have in the near future. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, then Christian and Bogdan can probably provide a bit more context.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your insights on that, Adam. Solana?
Is there a write-up somewhere on some of this stuff, Adam, so that I can go and like check it out? Like, have y'all done any basic, like what the maintainer's agreement should have in it, or what the maintainer's qualifications are going to be, or things like that? Or is this or am I misunderstanding?
I believe that Christian has some of that at a high level, like really rough around the edges, first drafts put together. But yeah, less about the maintainer role and more about how the maintainer role operates from at least my perspective and experience with it so far.
Solana, in the chat is the trial program that we did in conjunction with the TSC before we brought on Adam for it. That was to highlight the qualification criteria to evaluate a community person in the trial program. And we do have basic maintainer documentation that George prepared before he left. And we want to push that off to the policy working group to help coordinate for Q3 and build the contribution ladder so that all this ties into each other. The main thing for the pilot was just testing, bringing in someone outside of core devs and see how that interaction goes all together.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's pull that up to make sure that there's additional participation in there. I would hate to come back and have any type of comment or concern that Adam is writing his own review on that. So definitely want to make sure when that transfer policy that there's other contributors.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing that I was going to compliment to Adam's piece. So this week is concluding the trial program, but me and Bogdan will be writing the assessment reports in conjunction with the TSC to review the whole interaction process. And Adam did get 2 PRs pushed. And without that, there was nothing done in the last 6 months on the repository. So it is a step forward. And then we did connect it in a governance structure with the wallets working group. Actually went through an escalation path and some other things.
Then Adam needs a special T-shirt.
Yeah.
We're getting those 2 pull requests through. He should get some kind of recognition. He needs a sticker or a T-shirt.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
My internet, sorry.
Yeah,
we'll have the results live before end of the month. So
now correct me if I'm wrong, but from a general perspective, with the assessment completed, I believe the next step in this transition here or pilot process would be to actually get this onto a larger core repository. And that may also accompany or be accompanied with a larger focus on clearing out some of the issue backlog, because we do have a number of core repositories with hundreds of issues that date back a couple of different years. So there'll be another kind of avenue to building that maintainership, if you will.
Yep.
Yeah, and we have the same with Cardano addresses. This repo that we started with, there's I believe the oldest issue is from 2020 or 2021 right now. That's still out there based on a version that's like 9 or 10 versions back, but it was just never closed out. So yeah, that's one of our next phases, is just to do some kind of cleanup now that we finally have greased the wheels enough to have motion in the repository. Now it's time to go through and do some cleanup and identify what is still an issue and what can go ahead and be safely closed out.
Slow.
So for that, I would suggest doing a codathon type deal where you get a bunch of people together, you spend a weekend, and we all get together and we just clean stuff up. It's so much fun, and we got so much done with Hyperledger when we did that. It's just I know, like, sometimes it's hard to clean up when you're by yourself, because you're worried that like a bunch of people are going to go get mad at you in regards to those stale ones. But if you do it as a group and everyone can sit there and see that, it was all participatory, it's community code cleanup is they're actually kind of, well, the way that I've done them, they're kind of fun. I have like fun food and things like that, and and we crank on it, and it's a lot of fun. So I would highly suggest doing something along those lines to help with something like that, because it's easier to do as a group, I think, than it is as a singleton.
Let me see what we can do with that. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Same thing. There might be some event opportunity there. So
yeah, me and Tex will be limited to wearing cowboy hats and have pom-poms cheering everyone on. But
I won't say anything more.
Yeah, that's definitely redefining the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders a little bit.
I can't promise I'll bring any tips, but
So here we go. My aunt was actually a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader and was on the Love Boat. I got my Texas cred.
okay. We'll note that. I'll investigate getting Intersect sponsorship on it, and then bring it back to the committee. That's a good idea. Thanks, Solon.
any other questions from the group?
On the regular, by the way, it's good to, like, everybody knows that like once or twice a year you're going to have one of these, and people just love it and they look forward to it, and they'll make jokes about procrastinating and tell it, and it's just it becomes a thing. So and it's a bonding thing, I guess, is the key element.
Completely.
All right. Any other questions for the maintainer pilot or any of the working groups so far? Okay. Let's go over some OSO updates. Then we'll take a quick look at hard fork and give everyone a quick few minutes of silence on that one, and then we will hear from Micah, who's just recently joined us. But as far as OSO updates, at the same time that we are finishing the maintainer pilot here, we're also going to be looking at the open source pilot altogether. That's at 14 points. Christian, you want to expand on that at all?
Yep. So obviously Adam's experience is going to be feeding into that, but we're also going to look at past PRs and things and evaluate the projects by those use cases for all 20, I think it's the 27 core repos at this time. So me and Bogdan have a long week ahead of us, but we'll get those results out and get a letter grade. If we get a C, I'll be happy.
Next there, we've been in communication with those that are currently building or formulating TSC. They are also aware of HydraBuild and Haskell.nix, and it was a good conversation starter to look at bringing those over. So I'm still going to classify that under internal review for now, but more to come.
I do have a brief update on that. I was, so with the HydraBuild piece, there's a massive, for us to port that over, it's a massive addition to the current contract, and it's porting over 8 people. So that's a conversation the TSC is not they're not looking to differentiate that now, maybe in the future. But I'm still trying to see how far we can go, at least Intersect coordination of it. And then I believe the Nix site might also be a serious commitment. So we just kind of need to see how far the TSC is willing to go. But I'm all for Intersect branded things. So maybe we can at least get a logo on a page.
All right. Next, I'm just going to start by putting this up for thought. I don't want to put you guys right on the horn for making a decision here. But as we are going through the changes as far as working groups and special interest groups, wanted to think about some guardrails, right? What's going to be an acceptable level of work for us to accept, right? With how our meetings go and how much we talk about that is, general or even slightly technical here. How much do we actually have capacity for? Because I would hate to pick up a working group and then them not have the time to come back and share and report what they're doing. So just think about for now what types of working groups we're willing to accept or foster from that open source perspective, and then how many would be appropriate. We wouldn't necessarily hear from special interest groups as often until they say, hey, I have a body of work and I want to present this to move up the ladder. But I'm hoping that's pretty clear. If you guys have more questions on that, you can ping me separately. But just think about that, and I'll bring that back in 3 or 4 weeks here for us to kind of get an idea of what you're looking for or how many you're comfortable with. Okay. The last one is our open source YouTube. I want to say we blasted that in our open source committee channels here. If we didn't, it is open source at our open source office at Intersect. So at OSO Intersect on YouTube there. If you just search open source Intersect, it should pop right up. We actually got our first release of the podcast. We're calling ourselves the Open Source Cowboys, as you've probably heard. So there'll be more things coming in the podcast, but we're actually also assisting on a little bit more of like an interview format side that's going to start building up the Intersect proper YouTube channel there as well. But keep it relevant to open source. If there's anybody that would like to have their moment in the spotlight here, feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to set up a session to record with you, or should it align where we're in person, we do like those opportunities as well.
And if no one has liked and subscribed, we will accept that as your resignation. Just pop that in there.
Okay, any questions for the open source office? Alex?
Yeah, with the question of working groups integrating with the open source, I want to just raise awareness of the certification working group, which has been doing some work since a couple of years ago. And recently we've been discussing, in the discussion with Silona, mentioned importance of certification and the security audits and the certification working group was doing exactly that, defining standards for audit certification so that we can have accredited auditors in the ecosystem, and they can issue on-chain certificates which integrate with DApp discovery services, which I'm still not sure which kind of committee it fits to, but it looks like open source committee maybe in the future good alignment with the working group.
Who's leading that working group?
At the moment, the group chair left. It's Simon Thompson from IOG. He's the lead on Marlow project, and we are selecting the new chair in the process now. But Raman from High Assurance team at IOG is member of the group. Probably he will chair the group, or I will, or someone else. I don't know. So there's Borja from MLabs, and we are selecting the chair at the moment.
What was the working group name?
Certification.
Yeah.
Oh, the certification.
Yeah.
We can take that offline. We'll set up something with Raman and get an update, and then bring that up next time for discussion if it's aligned.
I'll ask a video in our open. I'll ask a question in the open forum section to you, Alex.
Yep.
So, Lona, the potential discussion is for that to come here. I think Alex was saying that it's currently unassigned. which defines it as a special interest group for the time being. So if I would say, Alex, just so you're aware, if that comes at the end of the month and that's defined separately, that's not to downgrade what the group is trying to do. It's just a matter of us trying to get all on the same page.
Well,
Right. Yeah, I
So-
informed the group of this process a while ago. They didn't have any objections, and just their concern is that there's been some work done by actually members of quite a few organizations like Twig, MLabs, IOG, for example, the list of vulnerabilities, which is important, and they come, like auditors discover vulnerabilities through the process of audit. It's important for the security policy, right, and security body. So yeah, it's pretty aligned on that. And just keeping you guys informed on the existence of the group.
I do have interest on that, especially with the developer advocate program, because one of those things is defining certification and merits for onboarding, coming into Cardano, and education and stuff. So it is tied to an open source initiative for Q3. So
Yeah,
that's of interest to me.
thanks.
Okay. So next I am posting a link. This is to a poll. It's a Google form. It is anonymous. This is regarding the Chang hard fork. I've had a request from the I guess you call it the parameter secretary or a member of our technical operations team to present this to you all, see if you have any questions, or just in general have you provide a response as well. We've heard that there's some pretty good feedback where everyone is feeling, I guess, pretty close to ready, but if you have some concerns, this is definitely your opportunity to share those accordingly. So I'll give everyone a few minutes here, and let's say 10:38, we'll pick this up. Probably not. Good question. Hang on just a second.
That's fine.
Apologies, try this one. Thanks, Micah. Tear it apart.
Yeah, just put Rick Astley on there. Do a Rick roll.
We'll give it one more minute based on the faux pas there.
I don't know if this is Micah making changes or not, but my only choice is yes, I feel ready for the Chang hard fork. There is no I don't feel ready option.
Is it not letting you move forward beyond there?
Well, I can, but
It's required.
it's like the terms and conditions. Like I can only say like yes, I'm ready for the hard fork, whether I actually feel that way or
You're
not.
not
Like,
ready.
what are we trying to survey?
It's the Vladimir Putin school of how to run a poll successfully. You know, make sure that people only give the correct answer.
Right. You can lead a horse to water and then force them to check the box unless they don't want to move forward.
Okay, try it now and see if that changed anything. I just put a simple no. So
yeah,
That's just funny.
might be slightly better polling samples now. So
it just reminds me of the surveys I used to do when I ran political campaigns. When did you stop beating your wife?
this is why peer review matters, Christian. Right here. This is
Oh, vicious.
should totally put an unrelated option on there.
Maybe how much you're going to give me.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is being recorded. I should shut up now. It might be quoted somewhere inappropriately. Oh.
Yeah, no worries. We won't definitely do a soundbite.
Luckily, I'm laughing the entire time I'm saying it.
Okay, sorry, I got silent looking at that for a second. I'm not. I'll do better next time for sure. I'm not really sure what happened there, but anyway, next then, Micah joined us here, going to give us an update on Oracle's working group, and this one is something that we're going to look for either a vote of yay, nay, or again just consent to bring this under OSC for the time being.
Okay, thanks for having me. We also have Peter, who's from Orfax. He came to the SIG last week. So I think oracles make a lot of sense under the working group, because what is really needed for them, well, not under the under the committee as a working group, what's really needed for oracles at the moment. We came to this conclusion in the SIG last week, like the 8 of us, that we really need standards and best practices and reference implementations to guide the Oracle path, because that's been really dear on Cardano, I suppose. It's really necessary. I guess to kind of convey the need for oracles. Recently, my company lost like roughly $200,000 from like an Oracle issue. Me and us and Lenfi. So yeah, I think there's like definitely a need from that perspective. It makes a lot of sense under open source, because it's all about like, it really is about standards and implementations. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
So
And
what
I say I support Micah's request. There's another member of the Oracle.
So I'm
Yeah.
just intrigued. What are the goals of the oracles working? Are you actually building oracles? You're trying to set standards for how they should work.
I think that's exactly what Micah just said. The latter. That's what I heard him say. So yes, we're not. Our goal is to build an open specification, open protocol, keep dialogue going between consumers of Oracle, Cardano Oracle feeds, and Cardano Oracle providers. That's just a dialogue to begin with. But I think the one output that Micah just paraphrased that we as a group identified as key, and I saw Adam nodding as well, and every Cardano dev I talk to will nod, is that we need an open spec on how to consume Oracle data, and that might mean more than one way of doing it. There's just lots of open questions. Leading an Oracle project myself over the last year, of course, we've got lots of knowledge. Mike has been working on. So anyway, there's lots of knowledge to share. Like every other initiative in the Cardano space, we shouldn't be wasting effort, right? We shouldn't be double spending anywhere. And we should be reusing and repurposing as much of our brain power as we can, which means open sourcing this stuff, making open specs. And we shouldn't be doing it as a standalone committee. We really appreciate the support we can get from, you know, exactly. Thank you. And it's critical to Cardano. If we all want Cardano to succeed, we need our oracles working soon, like now, this summer. Otherwise, it's done. We're done. We can pack it up.
We also have a problem that Intersect and this committee can potentially solve, is that we're all competing. So like we need to turn this competition into
collaboration.
Yeah, into competition, so that like because we all want to collaborate on something open. So that's like the definition of open source, and we are only able to do this really with a neutral vehicle. So we really need somewhere to do this.
Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the surface, the idea sounds good, and I would be in favor of kind of making this Oracle group an official working group underneath the OSC, particularly if we can get a clear-cut list of like what are at least our short-term deliverables, you know, like what's the plan for this group for the next 6 to 12 months, and then kind of reassess, so that we don't, like you were saying, Tex, take on and just adopt everybody, and then we're a crazy cat lady of different working groups that aren't actually producing any outputs. So yeah, I think, you know, a working group cleanup is going to be important downstream to say, like, is this still a necessary working group, or can we go ahead and retire that one? But for the time being, if we have a clear mandate to develop some standards and open collaboration software and tools, then that seems right up our alley. So like it's a yes for me, Doug.
Yep. Also to highlight, I met Damon at Consensus, and he also reiterated the situation for oracles across the board in Cardano. And adoption's kind of getting hard, and y'all are kind of one of the core tech stacks that we need to make sure stay. So I'm all for it myself.
All right. I would also, I guess I'll help the committee out here. I've been asked to help more directly support this working group as of right now. So I will be, I wouldn't say participating, but joining in their meetings as far as from
hey,
a
Terrence.
general overview, make sure that they stay in the lines that they're looking for, right? So it'll be a secondary way to report back to OSC what kind of progress we're looking at. But Salona?
Yes, yes, come to the dark side. So y'all might know that part of the thing that I do is standards. So
Right.
I think it might be really interesting for us to also take this to a meta level, Tex and Christian, in that you're going to have a lot more of this coming in. You know, it's kind of like one of the reasons that people often gravitate to open source is so that they can at least get a working spec done without necessarily having to do all of the normal standards pieces. Like going through the W3C or IETF, well, where I used to work at IEEE. And so I would love to sit down and for us to go through something, and they could basically be our first guinea pigs.
Yes, please. Thank you. My back, I'm a digital archivist. I have a master's degree in archival science. I've spent 2 decades working in digital record keeping, which is taking ISO standards, W3 standards, IEEE standards, and applying them to technical infrastructures. So that's what I'm trying to do with this Oracle and Cardano right now. But Cardano's so freaking hard, but we finally figured it out.
Coming to camp?
So I've created standards, I've implemented standards, and I believe standards specification is the solution for our problem here. Starting with an Oracle standard would be fantastic. So sign me up.
Cool. Yeah, I'll ping you. I'll find you on LinkedIn as well. So
great, thank you. See you in a moment.
Sandeep?
Yeah, I just want to say that I am in full support of this working group.
Should we do one more formal vote? All thumbs up in favor?
I don't get a vote, do I? I'm a guest speaker. I don't even know.
Yeah, Micah, Peter, stop voting. You guys don't get to vote. Vote's rigged. We've got vote tampering happening, so we're gonna have to redo it.
Add it to the.
Where's Sancho on it when you need it?
Just add it as a.
see, that's why we need the rules.
You need DID.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is just my chat. This is just my AI generated version, by the way. Peter's still sleeping.
Something that we'll
you're talking to my agent. My agent is authorized to make decisions, though. So go ahead.
something we'll go through in coming weeks as well as we get into July or deeper into Q3 is a verification. It'll start right now. If you are in a working group or or on a committee, please do make sure that you have your individual founding membership established and paid for. If not, I would hate for post verification somebody to be removed when they're a big contributor here. So more to follow on that. And then the only other
just a note on that, I did already open source a way to accept payments in Ada, so you guys might want to look at that open source and maybe like implement it or something. Just a thought.
Thanks, Adam.
Can you send me the link to it, Adam?
Yeah, please do.
No, it's the WooCommerce plugin, but yeah, like I know we've gotten some feedback from people that we don't have a way to pay with Cardano or native assets for our Cardano club, so that's kind of weird.
Correction is coming to that. I don't know the time window, but yeah, little embarrassing.
Right. Okay, so next up is the open source tools. Realistically, y'all are looking at it, right? We have our ClickUp space, and so if you do not have access to this, I will find a way to make sure that you can access this. Just give me a few minutes on sharing the links and things like that. We also have, and I move over to this here, we have an open source committee shared drive. I'm noticing that there are not that many people in here, and if I'm seeing correctly, I may not have direct admin access to be adding people. So I'm going to change that, make sure I have access, and then make sure everyone else has access accordingly. I'll double check with a Miro board as well, because I think there is one for OSC, but if not, we will create one. But those would be the three main tools that we'd have right now: is ClickUp for task assignment and continuation, the Google Drive Source Committee for collaboration and document storage, and then the Miro board for additional thoughts. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, silence is golden, I think, is what we all like to roll with here. So let me just pull back up the active notes here. Bear with me because I will get the agenda fixed up and ClickUp for future weeks here. Coming July 19th, that's kind of iterative right now. So something may change on the 12th if that needs to move at all. But theoretically, July 19th, we are tentatively planning to have that session dedicated to reviewing the open source strategy, adjusting and or adding additional goals as needed, as we are moving pretty heavily into achieving most of what's set up, at least from a foundational perspective. So I want to put that out there as just a thought, an idea. And if you have any additional feedback to that, of course, let us know individually, all together. Yeah, so we can get some more ideas there. And if we want to start writing a revised document for that right now, I can set that up accordingly. Any questions on goal realignment?
Just to add a quick drop in there too. During that, I'm also going to be doing the review of Q1, Q2 for the OSO and how we delivered to it, and then get the committee's feedback for the later half of end of the year, and if there's anything we need to change with that approach. I just relinked that in there so everyone can read that as well.
Okay. We are getting close down to the end here, but now it is that time for open forum. If there's something that we haven't shared with you, something that you want to talk about for yourself, let us know. What's going on?
Is there anything? So what's next for us if we've got a few years? Like, should we write out like a 12-month plan of like what the deliverables should be, or?
Yeah, I will. I will post something in the channel for you all. I will also get that channel moved down to open source committees. So there'll be a new place for y'all to go and find your stuff. Nothing too crazy. The channel is going to stay just like it is for the time being. Actually, no. Let me clarify that. The current channel will be archived, and this will be put into a thread under our open source, our OSC working group forum. So that's going to be a slight change of where that conversation goes, but we'll get all of that done. Thankfully, it's a Friday, and it should be pretty easy to find. But if anyone struggles, let me know, and then I'll get you the basically the outline for what we have on the Git book.
Okay.
That should answer a lot of questions that that some of our seats have.
So are we like officially a working group then?
Yes, you've retained
Basically.
classification as working group.
Yep. And we'll start hosting. So this is the open source committee Git book. We'll start hosting your stuff down here, and even can do meeting minutes or add things to that if you like. Text is the king of that subsection. But I do recommend to do a committee charter and then some deliverable towards your goals. That way it just helps streamline your activity. And then you'll have the ClickUp space that you can also work that Tex will share later, kind of like a Jira. So
okay, thank you.
Let me actually, just a second.
but the other tie into that is every other. You try to give a update to us if you want anything for the committee to review on the agenda as well as y'all get going. Because now your outputs will have a direct feedback.
And I don't want to make that too small for anyone to see, but basically your goal, if you have stakeholders, this one has rough plan, but sorry, this is all work in progress here, but whoever your membership, whoever's part of the working group where you communicate, but I'll send you the full format there for it. So,
So it just goes down 2 groups, so there's a lot of updates on that.
Weren't we working on like an onboarding checklist, or am I thinking of a different committee? Because I seem to remember one of the working groups, one of the committees working on an onboarding checklist for the working groups.
That is the output that I believe MCC and Matthew Capps in the meta, the working group to define working groups.
Okay.
I believe that was the outputs there.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm directly involved with that. That's probably where that came to you here from the OSC perspective.
Is there a way that, because a lot of this parallels what you did for creating that template for creating new committees in regards to what those groups need to have in place. So is there any kind of merging that's happening in that? Because that's what I feel like Micah is asking for. Is he's basically asking for an onboarding template kind of thing. In regards to, okay, now how do I sign up? What do I do here? Where does this go here? And that sort of thing. And so if we could maybe, even though it's not done, maybe share with him a rough draft so he can kind of know, like, and also, you know, give good feedback on it, right? I mean, nobody's better than the newbie than giving good feedback on your documentation.
So that document should already be, it was already publicized. So that's from about a week ago there, Micah, and it should be in that Oracle's channel because I posted in every working group.
Okay.
So group and special interest group. But yeah, I was going to say for reference, without pointing any fingers, it's a big push that I have from the back end. I'm working on a committee document to hopefully have by the end of the month, and then there will be a whole subcommittee section to look into and internal discussion as to whether there's going to be subcommittees or just working groups. There's kind of some fights in the background there, but that working group that Adam was referring to, there's been I'm not sure where MCC got all of their information because they kind of went down just a completely different path and it didn't line up with anything that we had on the Intersect Git book. So again, I'm working that from the back end here. But yeah, any questions or feedback, just please relay that directly to me and I'll get it organized. I'm actually in direct conversation with Matthew Capps. So
let me know if I can help on that at all, Tex, because like I gave them a whole overview on voting methodologies as well. I don't know if you were in that meeting for that one. That seemed to be very informative for them. So if there's something that I can do to help them get more in sync, you know, I'm here for you. So
yeah, I would say let me devote that structure. Well, I can still sync with you on it, right? But let me devote that area of work with Adam and the policy working group to finalize what we should have as a voting policy for everyone. And again, I'm going to try to tie in relevant partners from MCC so that they don't feel like we're just taking over their work. So,
well, did you see the voting slideshow that I did? It's like 40 something slides about all the different things that you should consider when you're creating a voting policy.
I have not seen that. No.
Okay, then definitely grab some time so I can go over that with you, or I can go over it wherever. But they asked me to create that for the MCC, and so I went in and gave that presentation as to all the different things that, like, when and it's specifically for open source and nonprofits, as to all the qualifications that if you're creating a voting policy, here's all the things you should consider and why, and it's very comprehensive, scarily comprehensive.
Can we get that? Is it possible to share that in our policy working group channel, Solana?
Oh yeah, sure. I'm fixing up the slides right now, but I can probably get that to you sometime like Monday or Tuesday next week. Adam, just remind me because I've got so many other things going on. I don't want to drop the ball on it.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, I think we've already got time with you on Tuesday or Wednesday next week, so we should be good there.
Okay, cool.
Anything else before we round this out? We are right at time. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Welcome newcomers here to the OSC meetings. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yep. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.